So we will get started, and so good evening and welcome. And thank you very much for coming. My name is Dan Powers, and I am a member of the League of Women Voters of Door County. And this forum is for the candidates in the contested races for the Door County Board of Supervisors for Districts 7 and 9, which are both in the city, if I'm correct, and 16, District 16, which is part of Jacksonport and part of Egg Harbor. The candidates from left to your left are District 7, Erin Tauscher and Helen Bacon. District 9, Vlies Wotachek. Did I get it? And Dan Williams. And District 16 is Elizabeth Gauger and Randy Halstead. First of all, we want to acknowledge and thank the many people who have made this forum possible. The facilities, the town of Sevastopol was very generous in letting us choose this as a venue, which we wanted to do because of the locations. This is pretty much in the middle between the districts. We want to thank Laddie Chapman on camera back there and setting up all the power and mics, etc. And he's recording the forum, and it will be available on the League of Women Voters Door County website. I'd give it a few days at least. And that's at www, then all one word, leagueofwomenvotersdoorcounty.org. If you start to Google and just put in League of Women Voters Door County, it'll get you there. We want to thank the local media for handling publicity and all of the League of Women Voter members that are here and help set this up and plan it. For the League of Women Voters, voter service is the #1 priority. We encourage people to run for office. We hold these forums such as this one to help you, the voters, become better informed. As an organization, the League of Women Voters does not endorse any candidate or party. It is nonpartisan. However, the League does study and take positions on many of the important issues that affect our communities, and a lot of times people get that confused. Nonpartisan is that we back no party, no candidate, and we've set up the forum and the way it's run for that purpose to make sure there are no advantages given to anyone. As an organization, as said that, take position. More information about the League can be found on a display table. The middle table over here has information. There is a clipboard, which we hope you have signed in on, because we kind of keep track of how many citizens we're touching and come to these things. And you can also check if you're interested in receiving updates from the League or if you want to join, and that information is, you can just by checking and putting your name there. Candidates, we want to thank you all for running for office. It's, if nothing else, a stressful endeavor. And for taking part in this forum. In a few minutes, you'll have the opportunity to introduce yourself and talk about why you have chosen to run for this office. The views for the audience, the views expressed tonight are those of the candidates, not of the League of Women Voters of Door County, and our sponsorship of this forum is not an endorsement of any candidate. This candidate forum consists of written anonymous questions and the candidates' responses. I think you've all gotten or given an index card. And as I said before, we will go until approximately 8 or until we run out of questions. So if you're hearing things, write something on a card or come get a card, write it, hold it up, and someone will come along and pick it up and bring it in. Please use a separate card for each of your questions you ask. We encourage you to ask questions about things that concern you, your family, and the community. But do please focus questions on community issues and not personalities. Questions are being screened by a couple of the league members, and questions must address all the candidates. A question posed to only one candidate will not be used. Questions not understood by the screeners will not be asked. They're not judging spelling or penmanship or anything. It's just got to be, they can read it. Please keep your questions direct and to the point. Do not add introductory remarks, innuendos, or accusations. I'm sure you wouldn't, but it has happened, so they will not get used. Any question that infers a bias for or against a candidate will not be used. When you finish writing your question, as I said, just hold the card up and we'll pick them up. In order to ensure the maximum amount of time to hear from the candidates, and so that each candidate has a fair and equal chance to answer questions, we have established a format which includes time and terms for the forum, and all candidates have signed an agreement in advance to abide by these. To promote a civil atmosphere in which all candidates can respond to questions effectively, we ask that there be no responses to candidates' answers. No comments, cheering, jeering, clapping, or any form of demonstration. If you haven't already, I just reminded myself, please turn off or silence your phones. I want you to also know that in the back we have the other part of our voter service, which is voter registration. If you have moved or changed a name, you need to check your registration because if you have to re-register if you've moved. Even in the same building to another apartment, you need to re-register. When these things are matched up by the state, they look at voter registration list with driver's license from the Department of Transportation, and if they don't match, you're kicked off the voting rolls. You can always re-register on the date of voting, but obviously it takes more time. You can check it also by going to myvote, myvote.wi.gov. It's a very simple process. You put in the address, name.
Well, if you're changing your address, they would put in your name and birth date.
That's what it is. And it'll tell you if you're registered and where you are registered, and then you know you're good to go. Okay, in the upcoming election on April 7th, voters have an important decision to make. We hope this forum helps you to better understand the local issues and the candidates' positions. So let us move on. And our moderator for this evening is Mr. Steve Vickman. Thank you.
Good evening. This will be a forum, not a debate. In order that all candidates have equal time to present their positions and fairness for each is observed, league guidelines have been established, and all candidates have agreed to them in advance to these same guidelines. Candidates will introduce themselves in a 2-minute opening statement. Candidates will be given 2 minutes to answer each question. Each question will be posed to all candidates. However, a candidate may decline to answer any question. No question will be directed to any one person. The candidates have drawn straws to determine who will speak first, and then the order of speaking will be alternated so that each candidate will have a chance to be the first responder. League members screen the written questions submitted to eliminate any redundancies and inappropriate questions. Questions will be asked as they are written. If the screeners do not understand a question, it will not be asked. All questions will be made available to candidates after the forum. Candidates Our league timekeepers in the first row here will signal when you have 30 seconds remaining in your response, and again, when it is time to stop. We ask you to be prepared to stop when signaled to do so. To our audience, no flash cameras, motor-driven cameras, or other visual or sound recording devices are allowed during the forum, other than by the press and media and the forum sponsor. Candidates are not allowed to use audio or video from the forum in or for commercial advertising. We will ask questions until approximately 8 o'clock or until we run out of questions, whichever comes first. Candidates will then have 5 minutes to elaborate on any issue during the closing remarks. We will now begin the forum with candidates making their 2-minute introductory remarks, and we're going to begin with Dan Williams.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for the opportunity that they've provided all of us. My name is Dan Williams. I live with my wife Mary at 836 South 16th Court in Sturgeon Bay, and I'm running for the County Board of Supervisors of the District 9. My wife and I became residents of Sturgeon Bay in 1986 when I was hired as the Director of Emergency Services for Door County. When I retired in January of 2017, we made the obvious decision to stay in the area that we love. I served Door County in several different capacities during my tenure. Emergency Services Director, Director of the 911 Communications Center, and as the Emergency Management Director. My experiences beyond Door County include a position as Chief of the Emergency Medical Services for the state of Wisconsin. This position allowed me to interact with and oversee over 700 EMS providers in the state, elected officials, and state legislators. I was recruited by the University of Wisconsin Hospital and Clinics to become the program director at the UW MedFly program shortly after a devastating crash. My entire career has been devoted to serving the public and consensus building. During my time in those positions, I've developed balanced and managed budgets in the multi-millions. I was appointed by 3 different governors over the course of 15 years to chair committees that shaped how emergency medical services are provided in Wisconsin. I'm very proud that I was able to serve the community and assist many of the citizens in perhaps some of the most difficult moments of their lives. I took my job seriously and was dedicated to performing a professional manner. And when elected, I'll do the same when conducting the business of the county. As the county moves forward, there are many challenges that lie ahead. It is my intent to serve the county with honesty and integrity. I will listen to all of the citizens equally with an open mind. I'm excited about the opportunity to seek this position, and I'm confident and ready to carry out the duties to the best of my ability.
Thank you. Now we're going to hear from Elizabeth Gauger.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Gauger. Firstly, I do want to thank the League of Women Voters as well for organizing this forum and giving me the incredible opportunity to communicate directly to my constituents. I'm running for DC Supervisor District number 16 because I have found my first year on the Town of Egg Harbor Board as supervisor to be a great match for my talents, energy, and skill set. And I would like to involve myself even further in a wider scope of issues that affect my most favorite place, Door County. I've been part of the community since the early 1970s when my family bought property here for recreational use. But throughout my adult life, continued to come back almost every weekend and summers. I obtained degrees in secondary education, political science, and government, and a master's in special education. I've also attained 5 different teaching certifications from UW-Milwaukee and Cardinal Stritch University. Within these positions, I've gained sound experience in working within a budget, as well as being part of a school budget committee. In my personal life, I'm proud to have been able to live within my means on a teacher's salary while building an exemplary credit rating. Other than being on town board, I also substitute teach for 3 different school districts in the county, which helps me to gain even more insight into what the diversity of what our community values. I'm also a vendor at Sturgeon Bay Farmers Market for close to 20 years, selling my painted rock creations with my mom. Maybe you've seen us there. And I'll be selling at the Door County Maritime Museum gift shop. I love every minute of my life here in Door County. I make use of every season by biking, swimming, hiking the woods with my dogs, cross-country skiing, snowshoeing in the winter. I'm all in and committed to giving my best efforts to our county. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to hear from Randy Halstead, please.
I'd like to thank the league for putting on this forum. My name is Randy Halstead. I'm fourth generation on a farm in Jacksonport. It's been in our family for 146 years, I believe now. I have 2 grown children, 9 grandkids. I've been on the Jacksonport Town Board now for 11 years, 6 years as supervisor, 5 as a town chairman, county board for 6 years now. I really enjoy it and think I'm doing a good job. Thank you.
Thank you. And now Helen Bacon. I'm sorry, Erin Tauscher. I'm
That's
sorry.
okay. You can do whatever you want.
Sorry.
I'm Erin Tauscher, and I moved to Door County about 4 years ago. My friends had invited me to come up and check it out, and the peninsula is gorgeous, and it turns out the community here is fabulous. Immediately, I was welcomed in and supported in artistic endeavors that I took part in. I also got hired on by Door County Medical Center, and so I've been an occupational therapist for over 10 years. And just recently, I moved to Sturgeon Bay and opened my own private practice doing myofascial release, which I love. And I'm really excited to be a part of such a vibrant, amazing community. And for me, at this point in my life, I'm single, I'm not married, I don't have kids, and I'm in the line of caring for people in healthcare. And so I feel like for me, the natural extension of that is serving on the county board and serving all the people. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Now we're going to hear from Helen Bacon, please.
Hi, thank you to the league, and my name is Helen Bacon. I'm running for County Board Supervisor in District 7. District 7 is in Sturgeon Bay and includes property along the Bay of Sturgeon Bay, Stone Harbor, Fincanterre Bay Ship, and Sunset Park. This district also includes parts of downtown, Jefferson Street up to 8th, and then over to Alabama on the far side. I love the district because it includes residential, retail, pretty heavy industry in the city's largest part. So we're a very diverse group. I've lived in my neighborhood for 38 years and worked as a registered nurse for both the local hospital and home health. I always felt very honored to take care of my neighbors, family, and friends. Life experience and a lot of what I did as a home health supervisor was I learned to work with many different personalities and to solve some really difficult problems and deal with Medicare, Medicaid, and other types of kind of difficult to, I guess, entities that determine how you do your business, is what I'm trying to say. Trying to balance the rights of individuals, the needs of county government, the constraints that are imposed by the state and federal government is not an easy balance to maintain. I try to come to common sense solutions that we can follow through on and solutions that are fiscally responsible. I'm running for my 3rd term. I'm also an alder for the city of Sturgeon Bay. I sit on a wide variety of committees and I really enjoy the challenge. I loved working, and a lot of what I did when I worked was what I'm doing now. I've been in a lot of different projects, and both inside and outside of government, and really have enjoyed the collaboration between local governments, industry, healthcare, individuals, local civics groups. Proud to be a citizen of Door County and happy to be able to serve as an elected official.
Thank you. And now Laura Vlies Wotachek.
Great, thank you. Well, good evening, and again, thank you for the League of Women Voters for putting this on and coordinating this public engagement. My name is Laura Vlies Wotachek. I'm the current County Board Supervisor for District 9. I sit on numerous committees over the last 3 years and finance for the last 2, where we're budgeting the county of close to $80 million. I'm interested in continuing to work hard for you, like I have been, and I plan to continue to do so over the next 2 years. My career has been in healthcare management close to 20 years. As a registered nurse, most of them. I teach for NWTC, for first responders and EMTs, and their refreshers. I've also have a degree in a paralegal for associates, and I've studied government systems in Europe during my college years. I also gone to UW Government Leadership Academy last year with an extensive 8-month course. I've also taken courses at UWGB for integrative leadership. Over this last term, I went to Washington, D.C. to help advocate for county issues and specifically for Child Protective Services. So I was honored to have that privilege and be able to do that. Many, many years, over 15, I've served on various different organizations and nonprofit, and that sets me apart with diversity. I've also been involved with the International Organization, which is a Christian group where we respond to international man-made or natural disasters. I started a youth leadership program to offset county costs. I'm a mother of 2, and has expanded me into learning more in the county. I also help out with Girl Scouts, which we are selling Girl Scout cookies right now. And I'm seeking another term to wrap up the work that I pledged to do. A couple more initiatives that I have complementary goals for District 9 in the county. I am passionate to help, and I've served my whole life for other people. My passions have often aligned with the counties, with clean water protection, advancing trails and parks, the thriving tourism, and economic stability. I'm doing it. I'm a person of my word, and with your help, I can continue to do that work forward. I look forward to seeing how this evening unfolds, to learn about you and your needs, and you learning about me. Thank you.
Thank you. Our first question of the forum this evening goes to Elizabeth Gauger. What do you think is the most important issue facing the county board?
I think the most important issue is definitely maintaining and supporting the sound financing and balancing the budget. I know that it starts out with a deficit, and wages, utilities, levy limits, capital improvements all have to be considered. Trying to remain debt-free as the board is going to be able to pay off the jail in 2023 in our lovely new community center. I think that we need to always try to stay ahead of the infrastructure, and tax levy is always going to be a barrier to us. But we also have to keep taxes low while maintaining the services. And I do know that labor shortages, with human services being the hardest hit right now, is difficult for the board. Social workers in various areas are in the shortest supply. In terms of addressing these, the county board is doing what I also would support. They're continually reviewing wages to remain competitive, implementing programs like flexible schedules, engaging with the ANAPI Youth Apprenticeship Program, and we need to change how we post these jobs so we can attract and retain good people. The small steps that is really important right now to make, because it's an employee's market and everybody's feeling that. So we really have to work in small steps. And finally, our average age in our county is 65, and we have underemployment, and we have to deal with fair wages. So I guess what I'm saying is that we need to look at, there's many, many issues that we'll address tonight, but the main job of a board member is getting that budget together, bringing together the best from all the committees to allocate the funds, to use our limited funds in the best way possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Randy Halstead, same question. What do you think is the most important issue facing the county board?
Likewise, it's the budget. With wages going up every year, you know, it's tough to make ends meet, but there was a couple issues in the last year. They wanted to privatize EMS, and I strongly supported going against that on the town level and the county level. And then they wanted to do away with door-to-door transportation, and I supported keeping that in place also. Thank you.
Thank you. Erin Tauscher, what do you think is the most important issue facing the county board?
Thanks. I also agree that it's managing and maintaining the budget and offering programs that are very successful for our community, which is very unique. I do know that levy limits are very limiting because we can only spend what we have each year. So it's very important to review our programs, make sure that we're bringing revenue in, and then also growing and expanding in the ways that we can. Thanks.
Thank you. Helen Bacon, what do you think is the most important issue facing our county board?
Well, the budget, it's kind of like a, what else can you say, really? But also, we've been, it's been budget for so many years that we are down to really kind of bare bones. There really isn't a lot of wiggle room. So I think one of the things that we really need to do is we need to be as creative as we can be with the money that we do have. I chair Human Services, Health and Human Services, and I know the department needs to look at what's needed and then needs to very creatively try to create positions to fill the need that is there. It's very difficult to do. There really are only 2 departments in the county that can actually make money. Human Services is one, and the Highway Department is the other. They can actually bill for services. So we're really in kind of a tough position. I know that we're very conservative fiscally, both in the county and the city, and I think that we have quite a bit of money above and beyond our prudent reserve, and it's probably a good thing because when something happens, that money can be spent very fast. I know a lot of counties in the northern western part of the state were devastated by the opioid crisis. We haven't had quite that problem here, but we have counties that were almost going bankrupt, and they could not serve their population in so many other areas because of one necessity. So I think it's really important that we look at everything that we have and all departments, not just the ones that, I'm passionate about certain things and different people are passionate about different departments, but that we all work together as one entity in the county. Thank you.
Laura Vlies Wotachek, same question. What do you think is the most important issue facing the county board?
Great. And not to just be an echo, but also have my own voice, I'll put this in a little perspective as a county board supervisor. So as a county board supervisor, we do the state's work. That's either as visionaries and also legislative. So how do we do that as a county board supervisor? We set policy and budget. So going forward in the next 2 years, it's going to be budget. Everything we do that we plan usually has a fiscal impact. When it doesn't, that's a beautiful thing too, right? So, but looking at that for the budget for the next 2 years, I have lobbied in the past for the levy limits. Last year, after April election, as a county board member, I actually was assisting with the city at the Department of Revenue to lobby for the BRAT, the Premier Resort Tax, which unfortunately the city did not get, but they wanted to use that for their infrastructure and their roads. I think we need to continue to do that, but we need to do it as a stronger group going forward for levying for the adding of the levy limits to that. Right now, it's based on your net new construction. In 2018, it was just over 1%. 2019, it was just over 1%. If we could lobby and say, hey, can we get at least 2% growth for next year, or either whichever one is higher, I think that would be a great way going forward. The state has asked us to say, you can go to referendum. Referendum is not a long-term fix, and it's hard to budget from year to year when you have to go to referendum every time. So with that, also debt management. We potentially have 2 large projects that are coming up in our county through Washington Island Emergency Service Building and also the Yonker Building. And if we can put that debt management together, that would be better going forward and save us some money. So I will conclude with that. Thank you.
Dan Williams, what do you think is the most important issue facing our county board?
Well, being last, I think budgets obviously are a problem that we have to deal with all the time. But I think we also have a bigger issue throughout the county, which is a labor shortage and a housing shortage. We need to figure out a way to make sure that the people who work here have an opportunity to live here. And unfortunately, that hasn't been the case over many, many years. Everybody who wants to put up a new housing unit or a facility to house the folks who live here seasonally or just can't afford the housing that we have here, it's always turned down, or there's a big rally to not in my backyard. And I think it's time to put that to an end. I think we should be able to look into the future better than that and put up something that makes sense. The county is an aging county. The services are needed, and they're going to be needed even more in the future. We have the levy limits that have been talked about quite a bit already, and those are a concern because people expect to have and continue with the same level of services that they have. However, there's no money to expand services, and wages go up. Basic contracts and things have to be honored, and so wages go up, and so sometimes it's very difficult to match the books to make sure that all those things work. But I think that it's important to make sure that we seek all of the opportunities to work together with the city as well as the county to not duplicate services that may be being conducted now, so that we have the opportunity to use our tax dollars to the best of our abilities for the people who pay our taxes. Thank you.
Our next question goes first to Randy Halstead. What can the county do to increase affordable housing?
Well, we're working at that now with the West Side School, and then the county had gotten some land back on delinquent taxes, and we moved that over to the city to build affordable housing. That's all we got for now, thanks.
Erin Tauscher, same question. What can the county do to increase affordable housing?
Yeah, I feel like there's a few issues that really compete with year-round residents and affordable housing. And it's kind of all across America, and it's Airbnb and VRBO. And so one of the ideas is that a lot of people are buying them and then putting them on the market to make a higher income instead of having tenants year-round and not making as much money. So one of the things we could look at is potentially putting limitations on that, or somehow getting in that so the single-family homes could be available to year-round residents. There's also, and this is kind of touchy sometimes too, but thinking about zoning. So zoning is in terms of having other indwelling units and maybe having those specifically for year-round residents might be a solution.
Thank you. Helen Bacon, same question. What can the county do to increase affordable housing?
Well, the county did a very good thing in connection with the city and other monies, and they ran it out of Door County Economic Development Corporation. They did a study. That took really quite a while, and it took a considerable amount of time to even get the details back and out to the public. And then they did a very good job of going around to the different areas and presenting what they had learned as far as how many units were needed, what type of housing was needed, et cetera. So I was on the city council and was very much in favor of the West Side School development. And we will find out in April whether we get our money for that. The county was involved in that, and the county had some funds that they need to spend for low-income housing, so we're able to perhaps roll some of that into the West Side School development. We also, Mariah Good in planning, did a lot to help set up, it's not called the Housing Trust, it is the housing something or other, but anyway, the Housing Trust is what I've always called it. And that has also been a collaboration between the county and the city, so that if a piece of property is foreclosed upon, the county gets it. The county has been able to give some of those lots to the city. The city has been able to give them to either Habitat for Humanity or to the Housing Trust for future development. And I know the Economic Development did a developers tour last year, which was the Sturgeon Bay area, and they brought in developers, took them on a trolley tour. This year, they're going to be doing it in Northern Door, and there are plans to do some affordable housing in Northern Door that should be, we should be hearing more about as we're going forward. WIDA is needed here, some for renters, for home repair, that type of thing. And childcare is another part of that. I'm also on a committee now that's starting to look, hopefully we will do a whole study on childcare similar to the one we did on housing.
Thank you. Laura Vlies Wotachek, what can the county do to increase affordable housing?
again, I'm going to be echoing here. We got some great candidates that did their homework, and we're all very similar on the same page. So that's a great thing for the county, right? So yes, the county did complete a housing study in 2019. There is a new website that people can access on the county, and that can give information to developers and also people inquiring to find affordable housing and what programs are available to them. So that's a wonderful, and that's accessible now to anybody and everybody. The West Side School redevelopment, as the revolving loan representative, that had closed out. That money goes back to the state. That the city can now apply for that money. That's $1.4 million that help offset that cost for affordable housing at that west side. That's 40 units that will always be staying in affordable housing. How that benefits the county as an intergovernmental agreement is that after 15 years, that city can sell that interest in that, and we can get that money back, about $875,000, and a $400,000 that we can use then in the county for other affordable housing. So that's a win-win partnership, but it is intergovernmental agreements. I think it's healthy that the representatives are very objective on each side of those intergovernmental agreements. Also, being on the finance committee in rem properties that you heard a little bit speak from another candidate, turning them over. That's a small investment for a large stake. So 30,000, so there were several lots that were turned over in this city from the county to the city for $30,000. That's up to 12 families that can be part of that. And that works with the Green Bay Neighborhood Works. And then also that's the Housing Authority, just to clarify the name. In District 9, there is potential of a new housing development. And I look forward to working with the constituents to see what their safety concerns are with that intersection by Highway 4257 and County U. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan Williams, what can the county do to increase affordable housing?
Well, excuse me, I believe that we've talked about quite a few of those things already. The affordable housing problem is real, and it is of interest, I think, to a lot of people. I think there are opportunities to look at zoning and maybe look at more multifamily units that can come in and help solve some of the problem. The Airbnb and the VBROs, those types of things, those don't help affordable housing. Those just put more people in the community that aren't from the community for short terms of time. So that's a problem, I believe. The city has a revolving loan fund, and the county had a revolving loan fund. The county was about to lose theirs due to a lot of federal regulations, and so they've turned theirs back into the state. But however, the city is eligible to get those funds, and we are in fact as a city trying to get that right now, so we can put that in to the West Side School. The good thing about the West Side School development is that it has phased rentals. So that depending upon how your finances are, depends upon how your rate will be. There's also 10% set aside, 10% of the housing units are set aside for veterans. And so those are, I think, are programs that we have to look at elsewhere as well, because I think everybody realizes as well that veterans are having issues all over the world, and certainly in our country where we should be taking better care of them. However, they have there are a lot of homeless veterans, and hopefully this will help to solve some of that in our community. So consolidating those funds was a good thing. The largest need in that housing study that was been talked about by previous candidates, the biggest need in that housing study showed for need for senior living, whether that be condos, apartments, assisted living facilities, et cetera. But that's one of our biggest needs, as it should be no surprise as our community is aging. Thank you.
Thank you. And Elizabeth Gauger, what can the county do to increase affordable housing?
I'm at the end of the line, and those were all great things, but I agree with all those things. I know it's a very complex issue. There's options, obstacles, and concerns, but it's complex, and I'm finding that just among my constituents in the town of Egg Harbor. Just the issue of an employer wanting to build affordable housing for his employees with on-site of his business did meet opposition in the community. And I think a lot of times it's a misunderstanding. I think there's a difficulty understanding the difference between affordable, subsidized housing, and sometimes just clearing that up in the community can open the door. Another idea is that to provide, I think what boards can do is be able to provide the correct zoning to make this possible, but it has to be done with, the first step is, since developers need to be financially rewarded for building, they're more financially rewarded by building the higher-end housing and commercial projects. It's more difficult to encourage developers to invest. And that's why I was looking at Assembly Bill 544, which was partially written with help from Door County, and that could provide the needed incentives in the form of $10 million pilot project that could provide tax credits to the developers. This bill was crafted with input from officials from the Door County Economic Development Corporation, and this could aid entry-level employees in need of housing here in Door County and statewide. I also would like to look at ways to limit Airbnb impact on areas and dwellings that could be affordable housing for working people. And I like the use of the foreclosed properties also targeted for affordable housing, as has been done. And affordable housing tax credits, federal letter with the April competitions. Thank you.
Our next question will go first to Erin Tauscher. Erin, would you vote to support a county referendum on what the citizens of Door County think about having a nonpartisan group create the redistricting maps for our state?
Yes, certainly. I think that's very important.
Okay.
You know, obviously that hasn't been the case, but having fair weight in your vote, not based on any other characteristics, is very important to me. So thank you.
Thank you. Helen Bacon, would you vote to support a county referendum on what the citizens of Door County think about having a nonpartisan group create the redistricting maps for the state?
Well, I definitely think that the maps should, we're due for a map change, and hopefully it will be a fair map change. Maps have a tendency to be drawn, however the controlling group is drawing them. As far as a referendum, I don't know if the county needs to do a referendum in order for that to happen. Usually with referendums, there's a certain amount of cost because there's a lot of, you've got to generally educate the population, which usually costs money. So fiscally, I'm not really sure that I would really want to go the referendum route. I think that the maps will be redrawn. I think the people in Door County are okay with going ahead and redrawing them, and I think that we need to trust that they're going to be redrawn. If we want to do a referendum, it will cost us money, and I'm not really sure that I feel that maybe would be where we want to be spending our money. Thanks.
Vlies Wotachek, would you vote to support a county referendum on what the citizens of Door County think about having a nonpartisan group create the redistricting maps for our state?
As a county board supervisor, I enjoy constituents' feedback. It helps me serve them better. I enjoy the dialogue, the open conversation. I seek that feedback. So with that being said, I can see both sides of it, spending the money on it, the effort. But if that's truly what the people want and they want their voices heard, we need to hear that through the referendum. So right now, for what I know of, to initiate the conversation, I think that's healthy to go forward to initiate that conversation and more what that would look like going forward. So that's what I can't say yes or no right now at this point. Thank you.
Dan Williams, would you vote to support a county referendum on what the citizens of Door County think about having a nonpartisan group create the redistricting maps for the state?
Well, thank you. I think a referendum is your last resort for things, and you shouldn't take that lightly. I think a referendum needs to be for something that's very important, and not that this is not an important thing, because I think redistricting is important. You know, we do a census every 10 years, and part of that process is to get people districted properly. However, when politics come into play in any situation, there's always people who want to guide it one way or the other. So I think if we could truly have a true nonpartisan representation that were to do this, I think it would be a good program to have. It needs to be fair representation. It needs to be, a process that looks at all of the things that are important to the community. And there are guidelines that are set up that are generally ignored in the processes that have gone on in the past. So I think that if it was a last resort, I would vote for a referendum, but I think that we can send the message to the state and other places just as effectively through normal correspondence that take place from the county government, city government, et cetera. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth Gauger, would you vote to support a county referendum on what the citizens of Door County think about having a nonpartisan group create the redistricting maps for our state?
It sounds like, listening to the panel here, that maybe it isn't necessary to have the referendum, but I would support it if it was needed, because I know redistricting is costly and partisan on both sides, depending who's in power. And we need to revisit this endless, wasteful process and let the people weigh in. I know that 72% of Wisconsinites want nonpartisan commission to redistrict. Following a ruling on the partisan gerrymandering from U.S. Supreme Court last year, the courts are out of the picture and a change in state law is needed. State Senator Dave Hansen from Green Bay is sponsoring the redistricting bill, and the nonpartisan Legislative Revenue Bureau will draw the maps, overseen by a 5-member advisory commission that would be appointed by both parties. The commission would then hold public hearings on the maps, and which would need approval by the legislator. Joel Kitchens is also in support of this. So I think people are saying it isn't fair, it isn't right, including the League of Women Voters has spoken on this as well. 50% of Wisconsin's 73 county boards have already passed resolutions calling for nonpartisan redistricting. I would love to be a part of this type of action if I were on a legislative committee. And I know that census will be a key to making sure our county is fairly represented. Thank you.
Randy Halstead, same question. Would you vote to support a county referendum on what the citizens of Door County think about having a nonpartisan group create redistricting for our state?
I think we have to have a redistricting done by a nonpartisan group, but I would really prefer to do it by resolution from the county board and forward that on to our local representatives. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question goes first to Helen Bacon. What is the role of the county board in improving and expanding county-wide internet access?
Actually, the county board, along with Door County Economic Development, some of the various IT departments in other municipalities, including the city, have been working on bringing broadband through the county. Now, it's not like everyone in the county will have excellent internet. It just doesn't seem to be possible, what with our cliffs and some of the other things. And also, we're very rocky. It also makes it difficult to lay lines, et cetera. But there is an attempt, and we are working on some of those items. Insight has been working with us to bring some downtown Egg Harbor will be the most wired, I believe, or the most internet friendly in all of the communities in the county soon. We have talked to the city about becoming more Wi-Fi friendly, but it's the matter of getting broadband all the way up to the island. So it does look like that perhaps the island will be getting some help. And if we have that main trunk going up the county, then we will be able to branch off from that. The whole idea of broadband in the entire state is we just have not been very far thinking on going forward with this. And I think this is something that really we need to push forward on and make sure that we have good internet connection, because it's very important for people who live here, students, et cetera. So,
Thank you. Laura Vlies Wotachek, what is the role of the county board in improving and expanding countywide internet access?
All right, great. Yes, the role of the county board. So one thing that I did last year, I lobbied for this down in Madison. So that's through the Door County and Kewaunee County Legislative Day. That was another topic that we brought up. Representatives straight out told us, guess what? This is a statewide issue. Why is it significant or more specific to you in Door County and Kewaunee County? Well, my reply is, last time I checked, Door County is the 7th in the state ranked for tourism. Many people love to come to our county, and we love that they come here and spend their money. As I heard from other people visiting here, is that they would stay longer if they had better Wi-Fi. If I can check my work emails, if I can work here just a little bit longer, I would love to stay in Door County and spend more money. So I did lobby for that. Funding has increased from $9 million to $24 million in 2020. So there's some growth there, but also that money needs to be spread out. The county has already did 8 grants to support those collaborations with municipalities. But one of the largest factors that our county can do to better for broadband, we need to look at our ordinances. And as a county supervisor, that's what we do. These ordinances are hindering these projects to go forward. Thank you.
Dan Williams, what's the role of the county board in improving and expanding countywide internet access?
Well, I think the board has to be cooperative with all the efforts that people are doing in the county and making sure that they're not putting up roadblocks to prevent people from working towards the goal of getting a better Wi-Fi system in the county. The county spent a lot of money over the last several years to put fiber optic throughout the county, which is the kind of the hub of which a lot of these networks can piggyback on and work off of to provide some better coverage as well. The geography of Door County is also one of the biggest things we have working against us for that perspective. As a paramedic in the field, many times I was unable to communicate by radio based on where I was in on a call, and that made it very difficult because sometimes there were dangerous situations and you weren't able to talk to anybody. So that was radio communications. Wi-Fi and internet connections are even more difficult to obtain. I would agree that the ordinances against the tower companies need to be looked at again to make sure that we are not burdening them with all kinds of unneeded regulations that they have to take to stay in business and or erect new towers. There's all kinds of tower designs now that are not the typical ugly type tower that you can use that will make it more attractive. I think to address the, build it and they will come kind of a thing, AT&T phone company found out a few years ago how important it was for them to improve their footprint in Door County, to the point where now you can get AT&T coverage pretty much anywhere in the county. That was not always the case, and that was as a result of their customers saying, we want coverage in Door County, and they got it. Same thing can happen with some of these wideband companies as well. If their customers complain that they don't have the ability to communicate while they're here, they need to figure that out and make it possible. Thank you.
Elizabeth Gauger, what is the role of the county board in improving and expanding countywide internet access?
I agree on all fronts of the importance and just how it impacts me personally. Not only in the town of Egg Harbor do we have limited ability to get broadband, but just cell phone coverage and dead zones at my house where I have to walk to the end of the road, and maybe I can dial out sometimes. Usually you can't dial in. I have to get substitute teaching jobs. I have an app. Sometimes they come in. Some people get them, some people don't. It just limits that. My father is had a heart monitor. They said it could be monitored through the internet, and we're like, we don't have reliable internet. Basic things like that. And of course, for tourism, as stated before, tourists do not want, they'll give up a lot of things, but it's to the point where internet service and cell phone coverage are things they can't live without. Within the town of Egg Harbor, we're trying to take advantage of grants as with town of Jacksonport. There's only so much to go around, unfortunately. There's 24 million at stake, and they're delaying it now because there's so many needs around the state. And I agree, how do we justify why we need it here more? We have a difficult topography. We have a need for the tourists. We have to try to remove those barriers so we can get these towers up, but not to the extent where we want to continue to make these be aesthetically pleasing for to keep Door County beautiful while we have to put up these phones to deal with our Niagara escarpment and other barriers. So again, ordinances and zoning issues are challenges, but I think I'm hoping that we will attract the attention of these grants and we can use those wisely. Thank you.
Randy Halstead, same question. What's the role of the county board in improving and expanding countywide internet access?
First thing they have to do is drop broadband towers out of Chapter 14. In Jacksonport, we got out of Chapter 14 completely, so we'd have our own say about what was going on in Jacksonport with broadband towers. I know that we put in for 3 towers in Jacksonport with the grant program. It's supposed to be coming out, the grant awards, I think, somewhere on March 20th, and the county is going to be donating some money towards our projects. We're putting in $75,000, Door County Broadband's putting in $75,000, and hopefully the public service will give us $150,000 to start. Right now in my home, I have my internet service through Frontier, and the service is poor at best. It's terrible. Thank you.
Erin Tauscher, what's the role of the county board in improving and expanding countywide internet access?
It's full support, being a part of the modern day society and then building really healthy infrastructure for all the modern types of work that people do from home and visitors alike is very important. And so I feel like we're very far behind, probably because of our unique topography here, but whatever we can do to clear ordinances and build in a smart way that is aesthetic and meets as many needs as we can is very important. So,
Thank you. Our next question goes first to Laura Vlies Wotachek. Laura, is the county's emergency preparedness function adequately staffed and funded?
Yes. Just cut to the chase. Yes. I had a meeting with, I sit on the Committee for Public Safety, so that's with the law enforcement, sheriffs, emergency management, and also emergency services. And from my work involved in that committee and through meetings with department heads, yes, we are doing well. Our emergency services, we are equipped to handle tourism about 200,000 people per day all year round. So that's a great thing. That's a wonderful thing with our tourism that we can provide for that. And looking at emergency management, I think there's always things that we can do as a county board supervisor when we're looking for efficiencies, especially in budget, that we should be looking at that every 2 to 3 years, especially if it's through certain evaluations or teaming up with the fire departments and looking at where our types of programming that we can do. So overall, yes, I do believe thinking we're sitting strong for our county. Thank you.
Dan Williams, is the county's emergency preparedness function adequately staffed and funded?
Having sat in that seat for many years and not being adequately staffed or funded, I can say now that it does have a fairly adequate staff and funding. However, we have a huge problem that we're going to have to be dealing with over the next year, which is the high water problem in Door County. Not just Door County, but everywhere, but we're just concerned about our own county. And I believe that they will definitely not have enough people to manage the workload that's going to come if we start to get more significant flooding, and we will. The Army Corps of Engineers has predicted that the high water will go up at least 6 inches again this summer. which will put many of the people on shore underwater. That's going to be a critical issue. We had street floodings in Sturgeon Bay, as well as many places around the county. That will be only worse if the water comes up higher. When you have high water and you have storms like we get, even though predicting tomorrow that we could potentially have some high water problems, ice shoves and things of the sort. So being prepared and having plans for all of those things, I think we're very well prepared, and they do a good job of having that. I think we also need to make sure that that the money that comes to our area, which is again very slim when you have a disaster situation, can be improved by the state. The tourism that we have here that benefits everybody but the infrastructure of Door County is unfortunate. Everybody in Door County, we have hundreds of millions of dollars that come into this county every year. And none of that, for the most part, goes to provide the infrastructure for law enforcement, public safety, dispatch center, emergency medical services, et cetera. So I think that we need to look at that at some point in the future to consider some way where we can have the tourism help pay for some of that infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth Gauger, is the county's emergency preparedness function adequately staffed and funded?
Well, from what I'm hearing, financially sound and staffed and funded, but I worry about the future. And I'm looking at Town of Egg Harbor, for example. When I think about our volunteer fire department across rural areas, it's been very difficult to attract and retain people to fill those positions. And I think it's going to get worse in the future as we look at millennials and their interests. And so I think it's important that we need to try to recruit young people to look into these jobs and via the schools and reaching out to them, because labor shortages are going to get worse. In the town of Egg Harbor right now, we had an opening for our fire chief that some of you may have been aware of. We had no applicants. Our fire chief, who wears many hats and is also on town board, was trying to move on to other things, and I think he made the mistake of saying he might hang on a little longer if they can't find anybody. So I think he might be there a long time. But the point is that we have, for a future of our emergency services, we really have to think about our labor shortages in that respect as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Randy Halstead, same question. Is the county's emergency preparedness function adequately staffed and funded?
I was on the EMS committee for 4 years. I haven't been on it now for 2 years. Haven't heard an awful lot about it. I think the biggest concern, like they've said before, is going to be the water this summer. I had heard that the water level this summer could peak another 14 to 18 inches. At the town level, I've had a number of calls already with flooding and wanting to do work along the shoreline. And as far as our fire department, we've got good numbers, and we actually got a new chief starting the 1st of July.
Lucky.
Yep. Thank you.
Erin Tauscher, same question. Is the county's emergency preparedness function adequately staffed and funded?
Yes. I think that one of the things that we could look at for future disasters and emergencies are partnerships and sharing resources among other counties as well. There also may be agencies at the national level that could potentially assist us, because there are always unforeseeable things that you're just not prepared for. So looking into those options might be nice.
Thank you. Helen Bacon, is the county's emergency preparedness function adequately staffed and funded?
Never funded. Nothing is ever funded to the extent that you would like to have them funded. But we are unique here in Door County, one of the few counties in the state where we actually own our emergency services. We have good facilities. We just put up the facility next to the fire department in Brussels Union Gardner, down in Brussels. And so we usually try to build a building that has also an office where other departments can work out of. We're looking at Washington Island right now as to make some decisions on what type of a building we're going to build there. And I know there's been a lot of discussions. But I think we've taken care of, as a county, I think we've taken care of our emergency services in ways that other counties have not been able to. One of the other things, and this would be a way of saving some money perhaps, is, you know, when someone falls in the county, you can dial 911 and someone will come and help pick you up. And for a lot of people, that's the difference between them staying at home and having to leave and go someplace else. But one of the things now that they're doing with emergency services and the ADRC or the is to do kind of an immediate, with the patient's permission, of course, or the faller's permission, to notify the ADRC if someone has fallen, because then someone from the ADRC can call, talk to the person, maybe visit them in their home, and talk about what are some of the things that they can do to prevent falls. So that is one of the ways I think that we collaborate, work together, and try to solve some problems that maybe would help a little bit on the funding side of it, and certainly does help a lot with taking good care of our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question will first go to Dan Williams. Dan, what can the county board do to increase engagement of constituents?
Well, that's a good question. I think it's important for any government organization to be as transparent as possible, to make sure that the meetings are, have availability for the people who want to attend. If you gear your meetings to certain times of day that you know there will be a little short turnout, that certainly isn't beneficial to the community. There's a lot of people in the community who would like to be involved and would like to come and listen and watch the proceedings as they take place. As far as what you actually do, I think is just making sure you're more available. You know, maybe there has to be more public forums to inform people of what the actions are of the board. Maybe that's a quarterly thing, or there's a question and answer website that can be used for decisions and issues in front of the board and their committees to provide some background basis for what people do to make their decisions. I think the problem in our society now is that it's a 20-second society, that anything that happens 20 seconds later, the whole world knows about it. And that's good and bad, but I think there are ways that people need that input and can get that input. And part of that 20-second society is that people, if they don't like what's out there, they start to make up what they want to see out there. And unfortunately, that's when things have a problem. So I think if the county were able to put a question and answer or a website Q&A place where people could go and get those answers to the questions that are out in the community, there would be less rumors and there would be more detailed facts that would come to the people of the community. Thank you.
Elizabeth Gauger, same question. What can the county board do to increase engagement of constituents?
This is something that was a goal of mine when I started on the town board for Egg Harbor. And the first thing I thought of was social media, and I thought about how people get information through a website. Our website needed some work. We had the subscribe to updates feature on there, and I had done that when I moved into the area, and I never got anything. Well, it wasn't connected. So we connected, subscribe to updates. I was even talking to Ken Pabich, and he said that the county website has a subscribe to updates that hasn't been activated either. So that was so easy, because then people automatically get when there's a board meeting or get when there's new information. So that's worked very well for the town. I've recently gotten into Facebook. That hasn't been my thing, but I do understand for a lot of people that is a way. And Ken, when I talked to him about that, thought that there could be a way to centralize that information, whether it be Facebook, press releases. I use Nextdoor.com in my area in town of Egg Harbor, and that has been successful. In a recent issue, I actually put a poll out there just to see what my constituents wanted. That feature is already built into Nextdoor.com. Also, creating an email list where I can reach constituents has been helpful to me. There's also just a welcoming atmosphere to bring people into meetings, and I've tried to do that just with food. As a teacher, food is everything, and that gets our parents to come in. So I always have some food available at our meetings and a welcoming atmosphere. I'd like to see more, whether it be a brat fry beforehand, they've done that in other communities, and get the people in. And I think it's working, and I'd like to continue that on the county level if I could. Thank you.
Thank you. Randy Halstead, same question. What can the county board do to increase engagement of constituents?
Personally, if I see an agenda item I think might be of some interest to someone in my district, I'll give them a call and give them a heads up it's going to be on the agenda, and possibly if they have time and are available, show up for the meeting. In Jacksport, we have updates that are sent out automatically via text or email. Thank you.
Thank you. Erin Tauscher, same question. What can the county board do to increase engagement of constituents?
Yeah, thank you. I think there's many different avenues that we can take in this, and not everyone, subscribes to Facebook or likes different avenues that are out there, but having kind of a placeholder in each of them is very important. So an online social media, Facebook platform is pretty popular in a lot of social events for younger people up here, also older alike. And then even offering just casual conversations for the districts is an idea that I had, and I hope to be a part of that as well. So as priors have mentioned too, just reaching out to people that I know that have a big interest in whatever topic is coming up in a committee. I've done that for people that aren't in my district, because I think it's important to be involved. The other thing is a lot of just public education. So my experience with just even running for county board is that people have a lot to say right away. And so I connect them with the information. So I go ask the questions to Ken or whomever knows, and I say, hey, actually, this is a person you can talk to make a difference about it. It doesn't have to be at a committee, it doesn't have to be at a meeting, just go and talk to this person. So it's just communication, being open, and I also heard that they're gonna update the county board website in the next month or so, so that might be a little more user-friendly. Thanks.
Thank you. Helen Bacon, same question. What can the county board do to increase engagement of constituents?
Maybe I'm going to take this a little different way, but when I was working, I had to advocate for a lot of people who couldn't speak for themselves, patients and families. And even way back, as I sat on the Human Services, well, actually Community Programs Board years and years ago, and there are many people in our community who cannot speak for themselves, people with mental illness, people with learning disabilities, people with other types of disabilities, people with substance abuse issues. And so part of my role is not just to be able to communicate with those, I have the usual people who we're emailing back and forth about various things, but what about the people who can't? I always try to think about those people. I did hear something nice from a constituent not too long ago. She said, I looked out my window and the street department was working on the light. And I got all upset. Why are they working on my light? That light's been working. She said, then I thought to myself, well, that Helen Bacon, I'm sure she's, it was too good. I was exercising, she was next to me. And she was like, but it ended up, she said, well, I just decided that whatever that Helen Bacon is doing, it's either saving the city some money, or maybe it's something that's environmentally better for the city, and I just decided I wasn't going to worry about it, and I just went and had my breakfast, which is kind of turning it upside down. But I mean, that is, if your constituents feel like they can trust you, there are a lot of people out there who cannot attend meetings, who care, but they're very busy doing other things, and we need to consider those people also when we are talking about what we can do to get information out there.
Thank you. And Laura Vlies Wotachek, what can the county board do to increase engagement of constituents?
Great, yeah, thank you. Great question, especially for our county board supervisors and elected officials. We should be engaging and talking and knowing what our community wants and what their priorities are. So as a county board as a whole, I think it's essential that we communicate better. If I could make a resolution for 2020 for the county board, this would be it, is having better communication. Seeing what happened in the last year with emergency services getting brought up, there was a lack of communication there in the public, and the public was very upset about it. We're seeing a trend, not just in our county, but in our state and on a national level, that public wants to get involved and they want to know how to do that. How can I engage and speak? Is it coming to meetings and speaking at public comments? But just in the last 2 years as being an elected official, there's more people reaching out to me through my Facebook page. I really enjoy the telephone and face-to-face conversations. I think that's how you build trust. But as a county going forward, as mentioned before, we're updating the website. There's currently actually a location on that website where people can do Q&A, where they can throw out a question and ask and get a response, but also social media. So there's department heads that are currently running Facebook pages for the departments. The Sheriff's Department, just heard Emergency Services would really like to get up to date on their running their Facebook page, but not everybody is great at it or wants to do it. And when you're working a Monday through Friday job, well, who's running that on the weekends then? So I think as a county board, we should be addressing this at the administrative committee, and we should be looking at how that policy is and how we protect confidentiality, if that's an issue, and also how we can give either budget or resources for those department heads to communicate also. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is going to go first to Elizabeth Gauger. Elizabeth, how should the county respond to climate change?
Climate change is a very complex issue. I personally struggle with the use of the word climate change because I think it is it causes political sides, people to take sides. Back in the day in the 70s, in the give a hoot, don't pollute days, we were worried about acid rain. I was told in school that the glaciers might come down and we're going into another ice age. I'm not saying that climate change doesn't exist, but I think the end goal for both political sides, left and right, is to, I would rather call it end planetary degradation, because what is bad for our planet is something I think we can all agree on, and whether it's controlling emissions or stopping pollution, the end game is the same. So I would like to shift the conversation to how we all can make better choices and we can all create an environment for our children that we want to see. But again, climate change is just, it's a politically charged term right now. I'd like to see that go away. Thank you.
Randy Halstead, same question. How should the county respond to climate change?
I'll decline to answer that one. I don't think that has anything to do with county board.
Okay. Erin Tauscher, same question. How should the county respond to climate change?
Yeah, I just went to the last county board meeting, and there's a presentation by the DNR about green tier involvement. And so in general, just kind of following guidelines that are good for our planet and for our environment are part of our responsibility in protecting our land and our resources and our people here. Also, Ken Pavich had mentioned that a new committee might be the Sustainability Committee. So looking at ways that we're expanding just in general to the demand of what's out there is great. So, thank you.
Thank you. Helen Bacon, how should the county respond to climate change?
Some of it is reactionary to things that are already happening. Like we have a lot of flooding in my district. Sunset Park, Little Lake was, and the 3 retention ponds were actually 1 pond for quite a while there. We had water pouring into Sunset Park and into Little Lake versus kind of static. Fincanterre Bay Ship, they've had some flooding there. They have a couple of old berths that are low. So there's things in my district that affect, I think, our district right up front, and that's reactionary. We don't have a lot of, there's not a lot we can do to deal with high water. There are some things that we can do maybe proactively. One of them is green tier. or a green tier type project. And I'm happy that both the city and the county are looking at setting up some sustainability committees, ad hoc committees. If you go through the checklist, both the city of Sturgeon Bay and the county of Door have accomplished a lot of the things that are on the checklist. So it's not like we're starting from zero. We've already accomplished a lot of things. Egg Harbor, Fish Creek, Ephraim have already, are members of Green Tier, whether we're going to join Green Tier or a similar position. But that gives us as a county and all of the committees in the county to take a look at doing things sustainably. One of the things, going back to the last question, is we had someone bring PFAS up to the issues up to the city council, and because of that, I mean, frequently somebody brings something about the Back 40 mine, for instance. You take that information and you talk to people, you listen to people, you maybe even write a resolution at the end of it to try to bring that information forward. So, thank you.
Thank you. Laura Vlies Wotachek, how should the county respond to climate change?
Great, thank you. Well, there's definitely different weather patterns that we're seeing in Door County and actually the Great Lakes. So the county put on a national-wide flooding seminar which addresses the core with the weather patterns that we're seeing and the high water levels. So the Army Corps of Engineering also said that they actually supplied us with a sheet to show us how this 30-year trend is going. So as a county board supervisor, I think it's great that we can educate through those types of seminars. We can educate the constituents around us, being District 9, being most of it woodlands and wetlands and a lot of coastal area, to educate to get flood insurance. If there needs to be break walls, vegetation that they can plant, buffers, they need to work with the DNR to get those permits to do so. Also on a management standpoint for as a county supervisor, what are we doing to address this? So if we know that some of this is trends, some of these weather patterns are trends, they might be higher than normal, but what are we doing? So we're seeing that our docks and our marina, municipalities or marinas, but if there's something as a county level that we can do to budget that going forward through our boat launches and keep in a certain amount of fund, because this spring coming forward, there's been a significant damage that we are going to need to address, and that's going to cost us money. The green tier, very proud to be vote that through and get that passed, because that helps us critique what we're doing to make healthier, more environmental decisions going forward. I think one really important too, with talking about the water and higher levels of water, is soil saturation. We've had 2 events in December of manure runoff, and as sitting on Health and Human Services or Board of Health, we're addressing that, and also soil and water. We need to be looking at it if it's dates on when you can spread, or it should be conditions with the weather. And I think that's something healthy as a county board we should be looking at for policies going forward. Thank you.
And Dan Williams, how should the county respond to climate change?
Well, I don't know if the word climate change is exciting for people, but something is changing in our world, and we are seeing different weather patterns than we've ever seen before. However, I will state that when I first came here as the Emergency Services Director in 1986, we were at an unprecedented high water mark at that point in time as well. This event that we've had the last couple of years has risen above that. And the way we dealt with it back then was, again, to educate people, provide sandbags for those who needed them to protect their property and their housing and those types of things. So I think we just have to make sure that we're doing the right things for the right reasons, but there's not really much we can do to change the climate. We just have to be able to respond to what it dishes us. I do chair a committee on the city council that Green Tier is part of, and we'll be looking at that further to create an ad hoc committee to talk about those types of issues. We really aren't sure that green tier is the term we want to use. We're talking more about sustainability and those types of things, so that if you can sustain yourself and do the things that are reusable and renewable instead of recreating, we think that will go a long way in helping some of the issues. But the wake damage that is occurring in the county now is certainly going to have an impact from a funding standpoint. But again, I don't know that we can do anything about necessarily the climate itself, but we certainly can be prepared to respond to the people who need assistance when the climate change creates problems like we're experiencing now. Thank you.
Thank you. This will now be our last question before closing statements, and it's going to go first to Randy Halstead. Randy, how effective are you in terms of collaborative problem solving?
Well, I think I do a good job, especially when you're a town chairman. If you don't work with your other supervisors and your committee chairs, you don't get anything accomplished. And I think I learned a lot from being on town board and bring that over to the county board. Thank you.
Thank you. Erin Tauscher, same question. How effective are you in terms of collaborative problem solving?
Yeah, comes in large part to my training as an occupational therapist. I've been an OT for over 10 years, and a big part of meeting every patient is taking them in as much information as you can from all family members and people that are affected and all the professionals across. We come forward and we give our recommendation, but there's a lot of compromising. There's a lot of emotion and stake that goes into decisions for people that are in a vulnerable state and place. So it's very important to listen and to compromise and make the best choice. And sometimes even as a team and collaborating and making a choice, if it doesn't go as planned, we come back to the drawing board and we try again. So, thank you.
Thank you. Helen Bacon, same question. How effective are you in terms of collaborative problem solving?
And how many committees am I on? Anyway, I think it's very, very important. One of the things I have to say about Door County, and you will hear this from anybody who is involved in kind of making things work around here, is that we have an extremely collaborative community, people working together. I can remember years ago when we were in little silos, and we don't operate like that anymore. The things that I could think of off the top of my head is the housing study, our new child care study that we're, I think, successfully going to be working on this time. We've started and stopped a few times. I think we're going to be successful. School Readiness, Partnership for Children and Families. We have 30-some agencies that are involved in that committee. I am just so excited to be on that committee and to see the work and the accomplishment that has been taken place in 4 years. We have everyone from the sheriff to schools to Boys and Girls Club to me. And when I think of the ADRC and the community center and all that, you know, we've been able to do there with getting that building up and running and everything that happens in that building, from LIR presentations to exercise. It's just so exciting, and I know there's several people here that, you know, we purchased the Yonkers building, and then I know a lot of us kind of went like, oh my gosh, now what do we do? We have 22,000 square feet of what? and yes, we're going to put the archives in there, but we're also going to maybe use some of that space for programming some human services needs. And then we have some space that can be spent in collaboration perhaps with economic development to allow some entrepreneurial things and some other things to happen. So I think, you know, we have people on the county board and people that in this community who do like to work together.
Thank you. Vlies Wotachek, how effective are you in terms of collaborative problem solving?
Well, I think I'm effective. I can't think of any work that I haven't done. All my work has collaboration in it. Everything. I'm a registered nurse. Anything and everything. As a county board supervisor, you may initiate ideas as an individual, but it's not going anywhere, and it's not going to get done if you don't collaborate. Period. It's been wonderful through these last 3 years, and I'm looking forward hopefully for the next 2 to do more collaboration. I have ideas to bring that home and help for the district and the county as a whole. youth apprenticeship program to address the workforce retention. Has been a collaboration. I worked with our district for a substation location when constituents were upset, and public service in the city brought them together, had meetings, and spoke about that on a good location for the district. That's been wonderful. And like I said, our county board, we do work collectively, so it's all about collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan Williams, how effective are you in terms of collaborative problem solving?
Well, it's something I've done for my entire career. I've been brought in on numerous occasions all over the state to be the referee, if you will, sometimes, and to bring consensus to different topics that are out there. Right now, the big topic is services that can't even get out the door. When the 911 call goes and the pager goes off, there aren't enough people to do that anymore. So I've been actively working with several different areas of the state to bring them together and show that as one, you may fail, but as five, you will be successful. And, you know, there used to be a situation where they would say, my name is never coming off that side of the ambulance. And I would say, well, that's fine, but what about adding a few names to it? And those people finally started to recognize that that made some sense. So I think that's been part of it. I've also had the opportunity to supervise many different things where collaboration was the main topic. People on both ends of the table on the conversation brought together, and somebody had to bring them somewhere towards the middle. And I've had very good success in being able to do that, and have enjoyed that function very much. So it's really about talking to people, and what it really is mostly about is listening to people. If you get people talking and you listen long enough, you will find what the answers are. I think we've been very collaborative on the city council this last year. There was a time when I think people were, just like the national politics, would vote against something just because somebody else liked it. So those things have gotten much better, at least locally. I can't say it's that way nationally, but I think we're headed in the right direction, and maybe it's a groundswell that comes from the bottom up instead of from the top down. Thank you.
And finally, Elizabeth Gauger, same question. How effective are you in terms of collaborative problem solving?
I'd have to say that's one of my greatest strengths and something that I love to do. As a teacher of inner city youth in Milwaukee for 20 years, I actually taught social skills and I taught problem solving, and also in an alternative high school where students were challenged with this. So that is a passion of mine, and I try to use those strategies in my own life. And as I became a new member on the Town of Egg Harbor Board, I was very aware of what it would be like to have someone come in from the outside. I was the first girl on the board ever. And my strategy was really to stop and listen. Listen, observe, and learn, and find out more information before I spoke. I didn't want to be that person that I've seen, and you've probably had in businesses and in your workplace, a consultant who comes in and says, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. And you know you've been there, you've done that. And I'd never want to reinvent the wheel. You need to listen. And problem solving is very complex. We are dealing with rewriting our camping ordinance right now in the town of Egg Harbor. It is very difficult, and we are trying to take the time to really understand what our constituents want and find a compromise. And right now, we're right down the middle, and I'm struggling because I'm usually that person who can find a compromise, bring together sides. But I'm learning. It is very difficult in some situations. But I think the best way to do is to listen, to take the time to gather that information, come back at it again and again if you need to. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidates, you will now have 5 minutes each to make closing remarks. And we're going to begin with Erin Tauscher, please.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for this opportunity, and the League of Women Voters for putting this on. So I know that there's a very large learning curve in getting involved in county government, and I'm well committed, and my biggest objective is to listen and to learn and to make the best decisions to help the healthy infrastructure of Door County grow. So thank you for that and for listening tonight.
Thank you. Helen Bacon, your turn.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters for having us, and the Sevastopol Town Hall also. It's always so much fun to hear the questions that are asked and to hear from other candidates. When I was working, I really enjoyed collaborating, networking, and problem solving. I have found out that those are the same things that I really enjoy about being an elected official. A lot of people will say, how do you do what you do? And I say, I really like it. There may be something wrong with that, but I really do enjoy it. I do enjoy being an elected official. Besides health-related committees, I enjoy being on parks, adding the hitting property to Dorbluff Park and seeing that process and being supportive of that was really a lot of fun. There's some of us here that worked on the ADRC Community Center, and I just never thought I'd have my name on a bronze plaque. I just thought that was so cool. I have to point that out to my kids all the time. And, you know, working on some of these projects is just really, really exciting and creative, and it's a combination of course, finances and making those decisions and keeping things on track. In this past term, this would be my third term that I'm running for. This past term, I wanted to learn more about industry and what DCEDC, or Door County Economic Development Corporation, does for the county. And collaboratively, we've worked on the housing study, the youth apprenticeship program, the revolving loan fund, which helps entrepreneurs either start a new business or expand their business. And also in health, I chair the largest county department, the Health and Human Services Department. A lot of you may just think welfare when you think of human services, but there's so much more going on than that. We're currently involved in starting the new treatment court, drug treatment court, designing some new programming for youth. And it's always trying to look at how can we keep people in our community instead of sending them to Brown County, Wausau, across the state. I admire all county staff, but I think the staff I know in human services really work very hard. Another area I've enjoyed working in has been museums, archives, and library. There's a lot going on there, a lot of changes, and I think that stay tuned because there should be some exciting things. I'll try to use common sense when making decisions. Decisions also need to be fiscally responsible, so there's creativity, and I like to think outside the box, but you have to be practical about the decisions that you make. And the thing about county government is it does not move very fast. You do need to plan ahead. You may need something, but you know you're not going to be able to get it for 3 months or a year. So there is always that lag time. It's nice to think that this could happen and that could happen, but that's not usually the way it works. I think the new word in any type of local government is private-public partnerships. I think I've mentioned some things that are a combination of maybe local government, but also working with even civic groups and individuals. Industry is often very active in what's happening. And so how to get all of those people together at the table to solve some of the problems that we have. I mentioned the Partnership for Children and Families, it came out of the health study. The local hospital needs to do a health study every number of years, and so does public health. So one of the things that came up was school readiness for 4 or 5-year-olds going to school, and how that seemed to be a real problem. And like I said, 33 agencies government entities, et cetera, have gotten together to work on this issue. I mean, this doesn't happen everywhere. And to the point where I think the state has really targeted Door County and our Human Services Department and said, please fill out this grant form. We want you to mention this, this, and this, because there's going to be some money available to help with taking a look at some of this problem. We'd like you to be a pilot. When I think of the number of times that Door County has asked if they would like to be a pilot for different programming, I mean, that doesn't happen everywhere. So I'm very proud to be doing what I'm doing and would like to continue. So please vote on April 8th, even if you don't vote for me. Thank you.
Laura Vlies Wotachek, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you to the League of Women Voters, and we are definitely blessed in this county to have such caring people that want to serve up here. So for the past 3 years, I made it Door County to be a better place to live and to visit. I take this position very serious, yet I provide a sense of humor to ease the waters through tough decisions as we cross through different paths. I've gone through extensive training to serve better and be innovative in ways for the government that can work together. And what I've done, like I said, I've worked with constituents in the public service in the city for the sub-gas station location for District 9. I've actually, through Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, I wrote a grant and was just awarded with the fiscal agent being DCEDC, that's Door County Economic Development Corporation, for $97,000. This is to help companies expand into new markets. That contract just been finalized. Workforce retention, initiating the youth apprenticeship program, and I'm happy that hopefully tomorrow at County Board that we can pass that for 5 new positions going forward. Also flex time for work retention, I think is important, and we can do more. I started a youth leadership program for the fair, which has significantly saved marketing dollars. And I'm positioning this to succeed without me. That's 450 hours of volunteering that I've contributed through this program to help the county every year. And what I've been a part of and very proud, and I take pride in collaboration, is combining departments while keeping the same level of services through human services and public health, becoming health and human services. We also, that has helped with fiscally and also not losing institutional knowledge as people and the baby boomers are retiring more and more. So that's led into other cross-training between departments. Emergency 911, we've changed their working conditions and helping families with and helping have a more family-friendly schedule. It supported countywide emergency services and finding efficiencies. And maybe going forth, there's going to be possibly different fees for non-residents to help offset the costs that we help provide them when they are here. But what I want to finalize and put county into a better position is a water protection plan. That was an initiative that I started when asking and seeking out to be on county board. County had just taken well tests countywide our first time. This is our baseline picture in time. And I think it's time that we really reevaluate our wellhead protection plan with the city and the county. And that's due to these recharging zones that are outside the city. We need to look at that and protect our water. And even with the water treatment plant, especially with water saturations and water levels being as high as they are, the county fair, they're starting to plan their 5-year outlook plan for fiscal. I would like to see them become fiscally independent. I propose this through a formal economic impact report to support if we do or we don't continue future tax dollars. And if that money is saved, I would like to see that to go to public transportation, because 2 years from now, that is going to be hitting the forefront. We need to come up with $180,000 to keep that program going countywide. I would like to see the completion of the Anape Trail in District 9 through the county, and hopefully the city, we can collaborate. They have a Section 2 they would like to see doing. I would like to propose looking at alternative years for elections for the countywide. One hot topic issue should not throw off our county business. All of us as county board supervisors come for term in the same year. I believe it should be alternated years. Debt managing, as I spoke before, for projects moving forward to save money for lower interests, either emergency buildings. I look to continue to addressing levy limits, as I also mentioned. So over this next month, I'm happy and excited to explain how I will do that in more details. I do believe that 2 minds are better than one. I would like to see separate representation between my city and my county. I'm dedicated through the committee long before I became a supervisor, and it continues to grow as I'm an active leader and a listener. I understand the needs of my constituents, and it is in the county. I'm invested in making Door County better. I love serving, and I would love to continue to serve. This is bigger than myself, and collectively with my colleagues, we can do that. It's been an honor, and it'd be an honor to keep having your vote again for April 7th. I'm charged, and I'm excited to keep serving you. Thank you.
Dan Williams?
Well, again, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for this opportunity. I hope that everybody in attendance and those who will be eventually watching at home have a better idea of who is best prepared and will evenly approach the issues within the county and certainly in the district that we represent in District 9. I will always strive to do what is in the best interest of the district and the county as a whole. Special interest groups have really no place in government, and I think that we have to look at that all the time and make sure that you're looking at issues that are appropriate. Again, I'm running for the supervisor of the 9th District. My wife and I have been very fortunate to be able to live in such a wonderful community. There certainly are challenges ahead, however. We need to work cooperatively with all the municipal governments within the county to assure that we are addressing issues that will bring positive results to everyone. As many of you know, I also serve as your alderman in District 3 in the city of Sturgeon Bay. The supervisory district has the same footprint as the city district, which will allow for continuity on issues that affect both the county and the city. I was elected as a council president on my first official night in office and take that responsibility very seriously. I have often been elected to positions of responsibility throughout my career. My leadership style has been described as fair, consistent, and honest. Gathering facts before making decisions and not jumping to conclusions has served me well over the years. We have much work to do regarding the affordable housing of the workforce. We need to encourage the development of affordable housing. It was stated earlier that it's not beneficial for developers to come in because they can make more money on a fancier high-level buildings. However, we need to do whatever we have to do to get affordable housing in our communities. By doing that, we will make it possible for the people who work in the county to be able to afford and live here as well. I understand the complexities that come with leadership positions within municipal government. My experiences have taught me the importance of fiscal responsibility and management of limited assets. I will not hesitate to stand up for what is honest and right. I will strive to represent myself with transparency while addressing the concerns of the community. I am extremely humbled by the opportunity we are given as citizens to seek positions such as this. I believe I have the capabilities and confidence to work on behalf of the citizens of the 9th District. I will make decisions only after hearing all of the facts and doing so with a level of civility that will foster respectful dialogue no matter what the issue. And in closing, I would like to say thank you in advance for your confidence and trust in me as your District 9 supervisor.
Elizabeth Gauger, please.
I just want to say thank you again to the League of Women Voters for this opportunity and for all the community members who showed up this evening. If elected, I would focus on the sustainability of our environment here in Door County in harmony with our local tourist and economic cultures. My grandfather came here as a boy from Milwaukee to pick cherries for the summer. He later brought my grandmother here for their honeymoon, and I still have the pictures of them standing in front of Eagle Tower in their Bonnie and Clyde era clothing. My parents brought me here for my first family vacation. I'll never forget when the power went out in Ephraim, and my brother and I walked to Wilson's, and it was still open to serve ice cream. My happiest moments of my childhood were feeding animals at the farm, riding horses at Carol's and Kurtz's Corral, having my mom pull me and my brother on a raft across to Cana Island, and getting to sit at those bar stools at the Hitching Post and Birmingham's. I remember sledding down the golf course in the winter at Peninsula Park and getting to drive the golf cart, kind of poorly for my parents in the summertime, as well as watching the sunset at Murphy Park on a hot summer's night. So many memories made and so many more to come, I am hoping. As an adult, I can hardly believe when I wake up and I hear the birds, smell the fresh air, see the forests and waters. I love to run with my dogs along the beach, bike down the Niagara Escarpment, and plunge into the waters for a swim in the rough waves. Every day, it seems I meet more interesting people who have chosen to come here for the same reasons I have. I make friends with more and more locals who share their fascinating stories of the early times in Door County and how much has changed and how much hasn't. I can't stress strongly enough that Door County is my life and my love, and I'm fully invested into wanting to make sure it remains the precious gem for future generations. I believe I have the correct skill set, mindset, energy level, and drive to be the most professional, dedicated, and competent supervisor that District 16 deserves. I would be honored to have your vote April 7th and would be more than excited to get down to work for you. I would not let Door County become Dells County, not on my watch. Thank you.
And Randy Halstead, you get the proverbial last word this evening.
Yep, I just want to touch on a couple things. We talked about broadband, and I've been working on getting some of the northern Door towns together through with DC EDC and Door County Broadband. Vlies Harbor, Egg Harbor, Gibraltar, and Sevastopol and Jacksport are going to go to a meeting March 12th, just to try to get the municipalities to work together on so we get good coverage on a plan for broadband. I'm one of 2 active farmers on the board, and I think we need a rural representation on there, dealing with soil and water, ag and extension. And then I just want to tell you a quick little story about what happened a year ago. February 12th last year, in the middle of a blizzard, all of a sudden it felt like I had really bad heartburn, and I started sweating bullets. And so I thought, I better call 911. And about maybe 10 to 15 minutes later, I had 3 first responders from Jacksonport in my living room. After 25 minutes, I had 2 paramedics there. A little right after that, a deputy sheriff. And then the paramedics said that on the way there, the county highway department had plowed to get them up to Jacksonport. And we have a private contractor plowing Jacksonport. He had town roads plowed to get over to me. And then one of our volunteer firemen had my driveway plowed out to get the ambulance into my yard. So it's just amazing how they got that all coordinated and got my heart slowed down. My heart was going 220 beats a minute. And got me loaded up and hauled me to the hospital. So just amazing how these different areas work together to get things accomplished. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you to all of our candidates. You are invited to remain after the forum to give the public the opportunity to meet and visit with you personally. And to our audience members and viewers, we hope this forum has been helpful to you as voters. Thanks to all of you for attending and participating. Thank you, candidates, for being so willing to run for office and to serve if elected. Please join me in offering a round of applause for all of these candidates.